think
Now
the
we'd
same
say,
thing
oh, this
happened to
person's so codependent. He needs boundaries. He's slavish.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's
It's just,
actually he actually just is so caring for other people. He's sacrificing so much,
yeah.
and
And so
he's happy about it. He's not like
happy. Yeah.
he's not like I'm giving away parts of myself and my identity, and he's not like hating himself for doing it.
Yeah.
He's joyfully.
That's right. Yeah. So this was a faith that if we have, this is a faith that has to grow in us if we're going to elevate our consciousness onto that spiritual level, that we don't calculate everything the way that a materialist does, that there's a certain faith and we put that faith to the test a little bit, that we stretch those boundaries a little bit, that we widen our circle.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Today is Friday, May 16th, 2025. This is episode 1602. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome. It is Friday, and we are starting our Wisdom of the Sages Seva Weekend. Seva Weekends where a lot of the local crew come together. And we just chop, we burn, we stack, we clean, we wash windows, we plant things. It's a fun weekend. We're looking forward to it. We already got Dan Murphy and Yvette here. And Jamie Step Dojo is on his way. The Timothy Taka and family is on his way here. Looking forward to seeing everybody. And then we get everything nice in service of the devotees that are coming next week for the Wisdom of the Sages weekend. And if you haven't signed up for that, wisdomofthesages.com. Come on down. Good morning, Kaustubha. How art thou?
Raghunath.
How art thou? As a man thinketh. How are you?
I'm goodeth, thinketh, you.
Edith. Mara, any announcements from you, dear?
Yeah, there's no show tomorrow. And then we'll do our Q&A day on Sunday at 7 a.m. Eastern time.
7 a.m. Sunday is Q&A day. Bring a Q. Or
Yeah.
send a
7 a.m.
Q.
Send us a Q.
Send us a Q.
Not our typical 8 a.m.
We have
Friday
no Q
weekends.
or clue. So please send us one.
Also, there's Urban Davy via the Bhakti Center this Sunday, 11 to 12:30 Eastern time.
All right.
Yeah, and that's let's see, that's
Nanda
Increase
Nanda.
Your Taste for Japa with Nandana Devi Dasi.
She's wonderful. She's an old friend of ours, Nandana. Increase your taste for japa. That's the foundation of it all. Sitting, hearing good rounds. And that is the keystone. You know what a keystone is, Kaustubha?
I believe I do.
What is it?
Isn't the keystone like at the top of an arch? The
Yeah.
stone that kind
Yes,
of holds
good.
everything together.
It's the one stone that holds the whole arch together. So it's, very complicated to build an arch. You got to frame it out first, lay stones right there. Then you have a keystone that fits and holds it all together. Then you remove the foundation, and then the arch just stays. But without that keystone, it can't be there. All this culture, all these things we do, it all revolves around our focus on the holy name. That's the keystone. It holds it all together, makes this whole thing run very smoothly, our spiritual life very smoothly. That's why there's so much attention to japa and kirtan.
Excellent.
Good day to you. All right, here's our nugget for today from Albert Schweitzer.
What do you know about Albert Schweitzer?
Oh, don't get me going on him. What do you know about him?
I know that he was a multifaceted thinker. He was a philosopher, a theologian, a physician, and a humanitarian who developed a profound ethical principle called reverence for life. And that this principle emphasizes that all living beings, not just humans, deserve respect and compassion.
I just don't understand, just play the devil's advocate.
He's like the first guy who came up with this.
No, I just don't understand. Like other people have been like that. Is anyone who says that a humanitarian? Like, can I say I'm Raghunath? I'm a humanitarian.
I think it makes you more than a humanitarian when you're bringing in all those other.
Well, he just had in his bio, I'm a humanitarian. He is a humanitarian. He's a You said multifaceted thinker, philosopher,
Yeah,
theologian. Am I a
does
theologian?
humanitarian mean that you're concerned with humans, or does it mean that you're humane?
Oh, that's a good question, Mira.
Yeah,
I just want to know what I can add to my bio more than he's a Yoga Alliance certified teacher. I need something more. I want humanitarian, theologian, you know, thought leader for animals liberation. I've got to spice up myself a little bit. These guys have, obviously.
Well, certainly he wasn't the first person to speak about that, but I think in his time, which he passed away in 1965, so it wasn't all that long ago. But that, that wasn't so articulated that, hey, these animals are people too, they should be cared for.
Right.
But I think, he articulated well that the true peace and morality arise when we recognize our interconnectedness, that there's principles that are working in the universe that we need to kind of be in tune with. And they say, it was kind of a revolutionary idea the way that he presented it.
Wait a second. Albert Schweitzer died when?
1965.
I'm picturing this guy like as a blacksmith or something, a wise blacksmith riding a pony around town. Okay, he was driving like a Toyota Corolla. He was not. All right, Albert Schweitzer.
Let's hear what it says.
Here's what he says. That's not just a good.
What?
Read the wrong thing. Until he extends. Okay, this is good. Until he extends the circle of his compassion to all living things.
Yeah.
Man will not himself find peace.
Okay.
Until he extends the circle of compassion to all living things.
Yeah.
Man himself will not find peace. Pretty nice, huh?
Yeah.
It's a challenge. Extend the circle. It's easy to be kind to people who are kind to us, or to people who think like us, or talk like us, or agree with us. Then we say, yeah, we're very loving people. We're a loving community. Oh, yeah? Can you love people that are, I got this from a Christian preacher. Okay. Can you love people? It's easy to like people that are like us, and it's easy to like people that like us. But can you like people that don't like you and are not like you? That is the challenge. That's the ladder we're asked to climb. I can like all these people. I can look at the podcast, look at all these people. I'm saying something, they're smiling, they're laughing, they're checking in daily. They obviously must like me. Therefore, I like them. That's what everybody does. The real question is, can you learn to see good in people that don't like you, that are against you, and that are not like you? That's the PhD in this stuff, right? And that's what we're asked to do. We look for something more subtle than even a person's behavior. We look for their great potential. And that's the vision of a master. That's the vision of a great friend. That's a vision of a great parent.
Nope. I think Raghunath, this isn't a pregnant pause. I think Raghunath rose up.
Bhakti wisdom, or yoga wisdom, whatever you want to call it.
We lost you right there at the end, Raghu.
Right? It's true clarity, and it's very, very powerful. Huh?
Yeah, we lost you for a few seconds there, but
I was saying something so profound. It's over now.
I'm sure it was. Yeah, I like what he's doing. I like that he's saying that there's a principle at work in the universe, right? And you don't find inner peace until you begin to recognize this truth, this interconnectedness. There's a verse in the text called the Maha Upanishad. And there's a phrase from that verse that's become like really popular in India, which is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. You familiar with that one, Raghunath?
No, I'm not.
Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. They say that it's engraved at the entrance of the Indian Parliament. Oh. And a lot of times it's used like politically or, in that kind of setting. But what it means literally is that the whole world is one big family, like that.
Okay.
What the verse says is, this is Maha Upanishad 671 through 75, or at least it's one of those verses in there. It says, this is mine, this is another's. Say the small-minded, the lagu chetasam, those with the small mind. We might say in English, the narrow-minded, right? This is mine, this is another, say the small-minded. The wise believe that the entire world is a family, right? The Vasudha, the world, Eva certainly is Kutumbakam, is one big family. So, as you're saying, it's not hard to feel compassion for your own family members. That's kind of the typical mode, right?
Yeah.
But can you expand that? Can you see the entire world as your family? I think he was saying that is the truth, and until you realize that there's no peace even for the individual. But it's such a central. He's talking about compassion here, right? That you extend the circle of your compassion. If there's someone if a parent has a child that's their own child that's suffering, then naturally their heart is overwhelmed with compassion, and they want to do whatever they can to relieve that suffering. But can that circle expand? Yes, it expands, but America first, or it expands, but it's like, can it expand that you really feel a connection on the spiritual level? For the spiritualists, for the Vedantins, they're saying that it's the externals tend to limit our circle. Right? It's limited by our family. It's limited by our race. It may be limited by our gender. It may be limited by our community, our nation. But those are all insignificant secondary characteristics. The Vedantin sees the primary characteristic as, aham brahmasmi. I am made of spirit. You're made of spirit. We're all made of the energy of God. And so that's Vedanta. But, Bhakti Vedanta, it really takes it to this beautiful level, And I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote about this and expressed it so clearly, where he was saying our problem is that our hearts are hard. And he says that when the heart becomes soft, then when that heart is torn toward Radha and Krishna, one feels prema. It's only because our hearts are hard that we don't feel love, divine love, when we hear Krishna's name, when we see Krishna's form, right? It's only because we're hard-hearted that we don't feel that love. But when we feel that feeling of love in the heart, that soft heart, when that same heart is turned towards the people of this world, that same love is felt as compassion. It's one thing. It's not two separate things. It's not like, well, there's love for God and then there's compassion. That's another thing. It's saying that it's the same thing, just turned in another direction. And so if we don't feel compassion for the people of this world beyond just our family, then we can't say that we have love of God. That's the idea here. It should be a natural, spontaneous feeling. And where we don't feel it, we can see there's some weakness, some shortcoming in our vision or our understanding.
I always thought it was weird when people would be, the whole football team would gather around, pray, and say a prayer to Jesus. Oh, okay, may we win this game. We try our best. It's like, wait a second, you don't think Jesus likes the other team, or they got to
Well,
pray?
you do see that sometimes, like, there's a little Christian circle from both teams that they get in the middle of the field, and they all.
Yeah, it's like, our Jesus is stronger than your Jesus. Who's going to pray harder?
No, but I'm
So
saying they do pray together.
Both teams come together and pray?
Yeah. You see, I assume it's kind of like, serious Christians on both teams, and they come right to the middle of the field, and they all kind of pray together. I've seen that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You got to be like a mom. You got to be like a mother. And the mother loves all the kids. And you say, well, Mom, you love him? This kid of yours went to jail. The mother's heart is soft. The mother's heart is soft and still loves the child who went to jail, or even did something atrocious. And because she has a soft heart, it touches the heart of the hardened criminal. That's how we make hearts soft. We don't make them by hating them. We make hearts soft by loving them.
Mm-hmm.
So we also have to develop that mother's heart. And in that mother's heart, we extend that compassion, we extend that tolerance, we extend that love to even those who are caught up in their bad habits and their bad lifestyle. And by doing so, our hearts become softer too.
I like it, Raghunath. Yeah, you're saying a mother, and they say, like, even the serial killer is on trial, but the mother is, everybody in that room is just like, this person is the personification of evil.
Evil, and the mother's like, little Charlie, little Charlie
Yeah, my
Manson, you
little
come
one.
here, Chuck,
He's
you
made a
sit on my lap.
mistake.
Yeah.
He just made a mistake, but he's good.
He's a good
Deep
person.
down.
I know him. I know him when he was little.
Yeah,
He's really
and so
nice.
we have a different, like when he's saying extend that circle, the border of that circle, there's always some rationalization we have to limit it at this point,
Mhm.
okay, but this is my family. Okay, but this is my nation, and then we begin to, our view of others changes. We lose that faith that you're saying, that underneath it all is a good person, right? Underneath it all is a good soul.
Mm.
But we're going to hear today this story. We're coming down this lineage now. We're getting really close to the 10th canto now.
I can feel it in my bones.
Okay. Because we're moving forward. We're bouncing a couple chapters ahead again because, again, we have like long list of names. But we got down to a name of a person named Rantideva, right? And I don't know like how common that name is to like the average Indian person, Rantideva, but I think he's definitely glorified in Mahabharata, and here he's glorified in Bhagavatam. I think his influence has influenced all of India. We're going to hear his story and how he responds to people that come to him, right? And how he sees it. Kind of goes down like a level of people that are like refined to less refined to less refined to the least refined, and still he sees them all as his family. He responds to them all with compassion.
It's a good story, yeah.
And I think this idea, like in India, that we have. I remember my first experience of this kind of Indian hospitality.
Yeah.
It was in 1987, and I had just kind of like I was invited to travel. Guru Grahi Maharaj invited me to travel this sannyasi, right? I was just like living in New York, and I was coming to the Brooklyn Temple and that Greenwich Village Center on Greenwich Avenue.
Imagine that you and me are probably sitting right next to each other and didn't know each other.
Possible.
You know what
Well,
I mean?
I
We
think
could
I
have been
would've-
sitting next to each other, serving up prashad, and our like our hands
I
touched.
don't think so,
Just like-
because I knew who you were, and I think you knew who I was, but
You sort of
I
smiled
think we
at
would have
each other.
started talking to each other.
Smiled.
Hey, man,
One
what's going
day.
on over there?
Imagine if we just said, one day we're gonna do something together every morning.
But so anyway, then in September of '87, Guru Grahi Maharaj says, "You want to travel with me? I'm going to travel across the country." And we're traveling with like a bunch of the Gurukula kids at that time, like kids that were like, I don't know, maybe like 10 years old, something like that.
All
10,
right.
11, 9, 10, 11, something like that. And we came to, I think we're like someplace in Michigan. And we stayed there for a couple nights in the home of a family. And this family just gave it was an Indian family, and they gave their whole house to all of us,
Yeah.
And we took the bedrooms, we took, all the nice places, and they just slept in a pile in the middle of the
Indians
living
are-
room.
Indians, I tell you, they have. There's a massive generalization, but they're just simple-hearted. Even the wealthy ones just simple-hearted. You guys take over our house, we'll just sleep on the floor all together.
Yeah, they have this deep faith that by serving the guest,
Oh yeah,
please God.
Yeah.
And so they're like, this is an opportunity, right? It's like,
Oh,
this is an opportunity to please God. I just give all these people my home, and we're really happy to sleep here on the floor. I think it all stems back to Rantideva and his glorification in these texts. This idea that whatever guest comes, you should treat them as good as God, or you should see them as one of the devas. Maybe they're one of the devas in disguise. I think that all comes from Rantideva. At least I see there's a connection there. I think it's set deep into the Indian culture. This example that he set.
Okay.
What are you doing, Raghunath?
I'm trying to. I got a weak connection, so I'm turning off my internet, my
Gotcha.
phone, and all other devices.
Gotcha.
Okay, this is a good story.
All right.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mandirayat. Before we start in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated. And loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmadatam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 21, Text 1. This is entitled Rantideva, the Dynasty of Bharat. Okay. Sukadeva Goswami said, because Bharadvaj was delivered by the Marut demigods, he was known as Vitat. The son of Vitat was Manu, and from Manu came 5 sons, Brihat Shatra, Jaya, Mahavirya, Nara, and Garga. Of these 5, the one known as Nara had a son named Sankriti. O Maharaj Parikshit, descendant of the Pandu, Sankriti had 2 sons named Guru and Rantideva. Okay. Rantideva is famous in both this world and the next worlds, for he is glorified not only in human society, but also in the society of the demigods. Isn't that interesting? You could become famous outside of these lands. You have to do really wonderful things, not just like basketball star, supermodel. No one cares. In higher planets, no one cares if you're a supermodel.
Well, we'll find out what made Rantideva so special now.
Text 3-5. Rantideva never endeavored to earn anything. He would enjoy whatever he got by the arrangement of providence. But when guests came, he would give them everything. Thus, he underwent considerable suffering along with the members of his family. Indeed, he and his family members shivered for want of food and water. Yet Rantideva always remained sober. Once, after fasting for 48 days in the morning, Rantideva received some water and some food made with milk and ghee. But when he and his family were about to eat it, a Brahmana guest arrived. So imagine this. You've done one of these Christ-like fasts for 40 days. You've been sitting in the desert, not eating anything.
48 days.
Right? 48. And then all of a sudden, here's some food to eat. Here's to break your fast with a little ghee, something really sort of rich. And I know from breaking long-term fast, that's the hardest day, the day to break the fast, because you want to just like, okay, the gates are open. I'm ready to eat something. And then all of a sudden, some Brahmin arrived.
Yeah, there's a really interesting idea here. It said that he never endeavored to earn anything. He would enjoy whatever he got by the arrangement of providence, but when guests came, he would give them everything. And that it means, like, in order to do that, you have to have a certain kind of faith, right? That I'm going to be okay. Where most people are saying, I'm not going to be okay if I give this. He's got this faith like, no, it's the right thing to give in. And isn't it a fact that God always takes care of me? Right? In other words, that faith has to be so alive. That relationship in one's heart and in one's mind with God has to be so alive that it's like, oh, I'll give what I have, even though I have practically nothing, because it's a little just beyond the rational, It's like,
sure.
It's like, because God will provide whatever I need. He always has and he always will.
That type of consciousness is very, very sattvic consciousness.
Yeah.
You're completely pulled back your senses. And it's interesting, if you've ever done one of those, I'm fasting and then I'm going to eat something, you go from the sattvic mind where people are, hey, you want food? And you're like, no, I'm fasting. Hey, do you want this? Hey, you want a slice of pizza? No, I'm fasting. Hey, there's some vegan spaghetti and meatballs. I'm fasting. And it takes such pulling back of the senses. And then it says, okay, today's the day you break the fast. And immediately if you want to feel the difference between the gunas from sattva to rajas, you just be in that experience right now. You know what else you can feel at Kaustubha? When you're serving out prasad everyone's so ready to eat, but you have to pull back and say, you know what, I'm just going to serve and I'm not going to eat. And you feel yourself like sense controlled or ready to pounce. And so
That's
this,
a way of practicing it. It's a nice way to practice
yeah,
it.
it's a nice way to practice. And it's even a nice way to practice eating. So you're not eating in that mode of passion, but you're eating with a mood of honoring as well, too.
You know, there's it's said that there are the 6 symptoms of surrender, the 6 divisions of surrender, what it means. Sometimes people ask, what does it mean to surrender to God? Right? And then this goes back, I don't know its origin, but I know that in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, in the Sri Sampradaya, this was spoken of, and that it was handed down into our lineage as well. But it lists them, here are the 6. And it's kind of like there are 3 pairs, right? The acceptance of whatever's favorable for bhakti and the rejection of whatever's unfavorable. That's surrender, right? Oh, this isn't favorable for the deepening of my bhakti. I'll let it go. This is favorable, even maybe a little uncomfortable, but favorable. I'll accept it.
I'll embrace that, yeah.
Yeah, and then the conviction that Krishna will give protection.
That's a good one, huh?
Yeah.
You know what? God will protect me. Whatever's going on out there, and it's crazy, I trust that God's got a greater plan. What a great mantra. What a great like
Motto
heart message.
to live by.
Yeah, motto to live by, tattoo for your neck, whatever you want to do with that. Whatever's going to happen, I trust that God's got a plan for me. Boom. There's a greater plan that I can't control.
Right.
And what's the pair for that one?
The acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master.
Nice. Right? Nice.
Yeah. And then the next, this is an interesting way. Let's see. Oh, Prabhupada phrases this another way here. Let's see. Accept Krishna as maintainer or master. Surrender means, then the next ones are surrender and humility.
Surrender and humility.
But really focusing on these 2, that Krishna will protect me and that Krishna is my guardian and my master. You can see with like Rantideva, that was his faith. And so he was willing to go to places that were like beyond the practical, where one would say, rationally, this is where you draw the line. You've been fasting for 48 days. Now this other person comes along. You don't give away all your food, you know.
You've done your time. You've done your pious activity now. Now just eat something.
Yeah, he's thinking, if I give all my food to this person, that'll please God, and he maintains me anyway. So it's not like I won't be without food. And if I have to go a little longer without food, maybe that's what God wants of me. You know, it's a bit extreme. I believe that both in Chaitanya's Leela and in the pastimes of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I believe both of them told their followers that among their followers there was a person that was just too generous, you know. I think Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had to say to his other disciples, please take care of this person because he gives away everything. He's just so generous. That's his nature. So we all need to take care of him. And I think
now
the
we'd
same
say,
thing
oh, this person's so codependent. He needs boundaries. He's slavish.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
he actually just is so caring for other people. He's sacrificing so much.
Yeah.
And he's happy about it. He's not
happy,
like
yeah.
He's not like I'm giving away parts of myself and my identity, and he's not like hating himself for doing it.
Yeah.
He's joyfully.
That's right. Yeah, so this was a faith that this is a faith that has to grow in us if we're going to elevate our consciousness onto that spiritual level, you know, that we don't calculate everything the way that a materialist does, that there's a certain faith and we put that faith to the test a little bit, that we stretch those boundaries a little bit, that we widen our circle, you know.
That's great.
So okay, so far he's sitting down after 48 days of fasting. He's ready. He's got some really nice food, it sounds like, right in front of him. And then a Brahmana guest arrives. Now, Brahmana is going to be the most refined person amongst the community, right? Now, someone say, well, just because he's born. No, it's not. We're saying his birth didn't qualify him as being a Brahmana, his behavior, right? So this is a person with the behavior of a Brahmana. It means a very refined gentleman showed up, right? Deeply spiritual thinker, simple person that lives on donations, you know, and he shows up and he's hungry.
Because Rantideva perceived the presence of the Supreme Godhead everywhere and in every living entity, he received the guest with faith and respect and gave him a share of the food. The Brahmana guest ate his share and then went away.
Okay, so he fed that guest, right? But it mentions here that he saw the Supreme Godhead everywhere and in every living entity. Now, this is called Samadarshana in Bhagavad Gita, right? That equal vision. Albert Schweitzer, what did he call it?
Open in the circle. Open in the circle.
Yeah, open a circle, but there was some name for his ideas that it was called reverence for life. Reverence for life, right? Where we see life. Life itself is sacred. Not just some life is sacred, but life itself. He was even saying the plants, Raghunath, Albert Schweitzer.
Yeah.
Of course, he was dipping into Bhagavad Gita and all of that too.
Yeah.
You know, I think he was very influenced by Jain philosophy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So here it's saying Rantideva had that Samadarshana. He saw God in every living being. Not that they were God, but that they were accompanied by God and that they were made of God's energy. In that sense, there's a oneness with them and God. So wherever he saw that, because he saw that, he would receive everyone with this deep respect, respect for all life, reverence for all life.
Thereafter, having divided the remaining food with his relatives, Rantideva was just about to eat his own share. Right? He just had a Brahmin guest. Now he's got a Sudra guest.
Oh, someone else arrives.
So someone might think, well, a Sudra guest, they're not high on the totem pole, so to speak.
And they work. They get their weekly paycheck. Why don't they just go out and buy their own food?
Buy their own food.
Like the Brahmana lives by donation, right? They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
now he's got the extreme opposite here.
And it also implies that perhaps their behavior is not as refined, as the Brahmana.
Sure.
They may be lower class in their behavior, perhaps.
And what was how did Rantideva see him? Well, seeing the Sudra in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's how he saw him.
Right.
King Rantideva gave him also a share of his food.
And then you take some too.
Yeah. When the Sudra went away, another guest arrived. That's where I would just go, come on. I'd be very gracious to the first two.
Just
by that third one,
just let me eat first, and I'll be with you in a moment.
Yeah. When the Sudra went away, another guest arrived, surrounded by dogs, and he said, "O king, I and my company of dogs are very hungry. Please give us something to eat."
Oh, do you remember, Raghunath? I remember that on the Lower East Side, and particularly in the area of Tompkins Square Park,
there was a dog man.
Yeah.
He just had a whole pack of dogs that would follow him around.
Yeah, always. Right.
Yes, I remember.
And sometimes he would be he was dressed almost like in rags,
Yeah.
essentially. And sometimes he was even dressed in garbage bags, like he would kind of have some kind of turbanish thing on his head and then a garbage bag.
There was always characters on the Lower East Side, and he was one of the characters.
Yeah. One time, he just used to walk around. He had a whole pack of mutts,
Yeah.
And one time, it was, it was right under Prabhupada's tree in Tompkins Square Park.
He could have been Jesus for all we know.
He could have been Jesus.
He could have been Jesus.
And
love the dogs, and we were just like, "Yeah, you crazy man."
Well, what happened to me was, I was playing soccer with Harley Flanagan, and there was a band called Bad Posture. Do you remember them?
Yes, I do. That really tall guy from San Francisco.
Yeah, that's right. And he was a natural goalie. That guy, right?
I didn't know
he was
that.
like real tall.
Yeah.
And we were kicking myself, Harley Flanagan, that guy. His name was Four-Way or something like that.
Yeah. Wrong way. Yeah, something like that.
Something. And the ball got kicked into the air. Now there's a fence up around it, but into the grassy area behind the tree.
Yeah.
There used to be that band shell there, and I think like the band shell was like kind of the goal,
Okay.
and the guy 4 away from bad posture was playing goalie, and Harley kicked the ball, and it went into that grassy area behind it, and I went running after the ball.
And all these dogs chased you?
And that man was there with the dogs, and when they saw me running, they thought I was running at the man.
Ooh.
And then suddenly
this
I had
is what my nightmares are made of. Ask Merritt. Packs of dogs.
I had a pack, that whole pack of dogs, which are usually pretty mellow, right? They were all around me and snarling and snapping at me,
Yeah, I know that.
And one of them
feeling.
got me, got me on the leg.
Really?
Yeah, right through the pants. It broke through.
Nightmares.
And those are
I
some
sometimes
pretty
watch these videos of packs of wolves chasing a bear. It's just like nothing they can do. The bear is as big and strong as they are. How'd you get on the squirrel, sir?
Well, my point here is I've seen people like this, a man that just lives in the streets and has a whole pack of dogs that go around with him, and I can picture this man showing up with Rantideva. First there was the Brahmana, then there was the Shudra, and now there's this street guy kind of like that, just surrounded by dogs, you know? And he shows up and he's like, I'm hungry, my dogs are hungry.
Right. Feed my dogs.
Now, how's Rantideva going to
all right.
respond?
Like, how big is his plate?
How big is his circle?
Those dogs eat a lot.
How big is his circle of compassion, right? Okay, maybe I'll give some to the men, but I'm not going to give you get some other food for your dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. With great respect, King Rantideva offered the balance of the food to the dogs and the master of the dogs who had come as a guest. The king offered them all respects and obeisances. I wonder how he does that. Like namaste? Does he bow down to the dogs?
I think those are traditional ways.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Thereafter, only the drinking water remained. All right, so the food's gone. Now he just gets some water. And there was only enough to satisfy one person. But when the king was just about to drink it, a chandala appeared and said, a chandala is a dog eater. So they're considered the lowest class.
Yeah.
I think even today, if you say, what's for dinner? You guys have dog? We'd be like, you are so low class. You know what I mean?
You are so low
People
class.
eat a lot of animals nowadays. And they even go to exotic animals. Like, I want shark. I want, kangaroo. I think if somebody says, I want dog, everybody will wholeheartedly vote this guy as the lowest class guy, because we have such affection for dogs. So here he is. A chandala showed up, O king, although I'm lowborn. I admit it. Kindly give me your drinking water. Aggrieved at the hearing the pitiable
where
words.
are you right now?
11.
Text 11.
Okay.
Aggrieved at hearing the pitiable words of the poor fatigued chandal, Maharaj Rantideva spoke the following nectarian words.
Okay. Probably something to learn here, right? If we want to practice yoga, if we want to practice bhakti, if we want to understand the mood, why Rantideva has been glorified over the centuries, we can probably learn something right now.
I do not pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the 8 perfections of mystic yoga, nor for salvation from repeated birth and death. I want only to stay amongst all the living entities and suffer all the distresses on their behalf, so that they may be freed from suffering. Wow. That's the Jesus prayer right there.
Yes.
That is the, who is it?
Vasudhaiva
Dutt prayer. Right. That is taking it to the next level.
Actually, Prabhupada speaks about him in the. You want to read the commentary?
Yeah. This is 12. Jamie Step Dojo arrived. Someone make him feel welcome.
He's hungry.
Offer him whatever he wants.
Give him everything.
He's eating lunch, all the lunch. Vasudhaiva Dutt, there's a purport. Vasudhaiva Dutt made a similar statement to Lord Chaitanya, requesting the Lord to liberate all living entities in his presence. Vasudhaiva Dutt submitted that if they were unfit to be liberated, he himself would take all their sinful reactions and suffer personally so that the Lord might deliver them. A Vaishnava is therefore described as being para dukkha dukhi, right? Very much aggrieved by the sufferings of others. As such, a Vaishnava engages in activities for the real welfare of human society. I think, Christians try to claim like they've got a monopoly on this. But this is the mood of a genuine spiritualist. Even the Buddhists have these bodhisattvas who they want to come back until everybody is liberated.
Right.
This concept of a deep, deep rooted selflessness in concern for others is beautiful. And you see this appear in different traditions.
Yeah, and of course, this is the most extreme. In other words, like, it's one thing to take on the karma of one other person. It's like,
God, imagine taking the karma for this world right now.
like if someone
It's
came
like,
to you,
okay, Mao, Stalin, Saddam Hussein, give me all your karma.
I'll take it
Okay.
all.
I'll take it all just so you guys can be liberated.
But
They're
but
like, oh, okay. Thank you.
so that's actually kind of inconceivable for us,
Hmm.
the amount of pain that one would have to
No,
endure.
I can't. I don't think I'm a spiritualist, actually. If I have to take on Pol Pot's karma, no. Like, I might have to draw the line.
And so there
I don't
must.
even like to want to think about all the karma I have to take on for the things that I've done.
That's hard enough.
You know what I mean? As a child,
Yeah.
I've gone fishing. I got to get karma for that. I don't want to take that on.
Yeah. Well, but there must be something in here that for a person to be able to say this, let's just try to bring it to like maybe something more perceptible for us, maybe more relatable, but still challenging.
Right.
The idea that I'll take on that person's suffering. It must mean that you don't suffer the same way that someone else suffers who doesn't have your level of realization.
Yeah.
In other words, that person that really has God in their heart and that feels it and that lives it, that they're suffering, just like you take like the sannyasi that wanders out into the forest alone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for most people, it's going to be like, oh, it's going to be too lonely. It's going to be too lonely. But for this person, it's like, I won't be lonely because I have God in my heart. And I think for someone like Rantideva, it's like, the things that he's saying, no, the suffering is too much. But for him, it must be like, no, it's not really suffering, because of this connection that I have no matter what. If I have God alive in my life, in my mind, in my heart, and if I'm experiencing that at every moment, then whatever the external situation is, it's not too much for me to bear. And if I can relieve the suffering of someone else, I'll take it.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. And I think this is a very, very noble statement. I just don't get taking on the karma of Jack the Ripper, the son of Sam. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying
that's
it's
what I
just
don't get.
What I'm sharing is I believe that that's just the same thing, but deeper, deeper, deeper.
Yeah.
Right.
Narayani Pundit on the message board says, I heard from you, Raghunath, that children under a certain age won't get karma for their activities.
Yeah, well, that goes back to, who was that again?
Maharaj Yudhisthira?
Kanva or something? Who was it? There was some sage that had, in his childhood, he had pierced
Pierced a bug.
He had pierced a bug.
He had pulled the wings. Or I just got news for Narayani, though.
Was it a toddler when you were fishing?
Yeah, I was not a toddler. I was doing a lot of things that deserve karma when I was 16, 17, 18.
Okay.
So
what happened in that case was that this sage had done that. And then one day, I think he was just sitting in his ashram and some thieves came by.
Yeah.
Right? They were on the run. And I believe when the lawman came along, was it that he didn't indicate where they were and he protected them or something like that?
Oh yeah, I know what you're thinking of.
I forget.
Yeah.
He got pulled into like a whole trial and everything. And
we sometimes get implicated in other people's karma, don't we?
yeah, he was found guilty, and he was kind of found as guilty as all the other criminals, although he had really done nothing. And the punishment was impalement. Right? He was impaled, and he's like, why am I suffering such an extreme punishment for what I did, which was really nothing at all? And then he was informed that as a child he had pierced, a bug, and now he's being pierced in the same way. And I think based on his own accumulated merit yogic merit, he was able to kind of like adjust the universal law that children would not be held responsible for their karmic, activities. Something like that, right? That's how that story goes, right?
Yeah.
So maybe at least a lot of what you did, you're off the hook.
Yeah. Then you have
Literally the hook.
Then you cross that magic year sweet 16 party or something like, oh, get ready. Everything you do now, there's karma.
Yeah. Okay. So did you read the whole thing, the whole commentary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Text 13. By offering my water to maintain the life of this poor Chandala, this dog eater, who is struggling to live. If I was the guy with the dogs, I'd be like, let's get out of here. This guy's going after.
He was already gone.
I have been freed from all hunger, thirst, fatigue.
Okay, let's hear this.
By offering my water to maintain the life of this poor Chandala,
Yeah.
who's struggling to live, I've been freed from all hunger, thirst, fatigue, trembling of the body, moroseness, distress, lamentation, and illusion. Just by offering that water, becoming so detached and just trusting God, now I'm free from these things that everybody suffers from.
This is here we're trying to learn how to operate in this world, right? How a deeply thoughtful spiritual person who's not just a hypocrite, but whose faith is actually deep, how they see it, right? The rational thing is, by giving this away, I'm going to suffer thirst. I'm giving the last of my water away. He's saying by giving the water away, actually it quenched my thirst. That my anxiety reduces to the extent that my generosity increases. We think I need to limit my generosity or I'll be in anxiety. He's saying the more generous that I am, the less anxiety that I have. He's living this stuff on a deep level, and I think it's something that we all need to consider. Quite frankly, being charitable is considered the duty of any householder, right? If we work in the world and we own a home and we earn money, kind of the Vedic culture calls upon us to be charitable.
Sure.
And to be charitable even to the point where it kind of hurts a little bit. He's saying it actually doesn't hurt when you go there. It actually it relieves your suffering. The more generous that we're. It's a principle that he's living on an extreme level, that if we're not living at least on some level, we may be kind of not really understanding our dharma, our role in society.
Like that. Demigods like Lord Brahma.
Having spoken thus,
King Rantideva, although on the verge of death because of thirst, gave his own portion of water to the Chandala without hesitation. For the king was naturally very kind and very sober.
Okay.
Demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, who can satisfy all materially ambitious men by giving them the rewards of their desire, then manifested their own identities before King Rantideva. For it was they who had presented themselves as the Brahman, Sudra, Chandala, and so on.
They all got together and they set a plan. Okay, I'm gonna go there as a Brahmana. You go as a Shudra.
Let's play. It's like the demigod's practical joke on the king.
Why do I always have to be the Chandala?
It's like demigod candid camera.
Right. And this is something that you still see in Indian society, right? Like this person, this beggar on the street may be a deva in disguise.
That's what I said earlier. I was like, it could be Jesus, that dog man in Tompkins Square Park.
Yeah.
These stories are again and again in Vedic. These talks are like, you hear about this in Buddhism as well, or Christianity. When Christ gets brought to the top of the mountain, they say the devil comes. You can have all of this. It can all be yours. Nope, don't want it. It's like these tests. Who's the big one that I always talk about gets that test? Haris Chandra. Like the Haris Chandra story, he gets so many tests. It's like, oh my God, this is unfair. This is unfair. This is unfair. And he keeps on saying, dharma first, duty first. I'm going to do what's right. Even though it seems unfair, I'm going to do what's right.
That's right. Transrational.
And all this, same thing.
The transrational faith of Krishna's devotee, the transrational faith of the Bhakti yogi is being demonstrated. It's a powerful principle. 3 more verses.
Mara, can you think of one in the... oh, it's already 8 o'clock. No time for quizzing Mara.
3 more
Think of
verses.
one of the Mahabharata, ending of the Mahabharata. Okay. Text 16. King Rantideva had no ambition to enjoy material benefits from the demigods. He offered them obeisances, but because he was factually attached to Lord Vishnu, Vasudhaiva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he fixed his mind at Lord Vishnu's lotus feet.
So he's offered, he had potential to get any kind of blessing now. He's not interested.
Oh, Maharaj Parikshit, because King Rantideva was pure devotee, always Krishna conscious and free from all material desires, the Lord's illusory energy, Maya, could not exhibit herself before him. On the contrary, for him, Maya entirely vanished, exactly like a dream. All those who followed the principles of King Rantideva were totally favored by his mercy and became pure devotees, attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. Thus, they all became the best of yogis.
There you go.
From
That's
Garga came a son named...
Now it shifts
Okay.
back and opens up into list.
Maybe we
names again.
stop there.
But
Let's
that
stop
was
there.
King Rantideva. Yeah.
That was a great story, huh?
So yeah, as Bhagavatam is coming down this long list of names, it stops and gives us 18 verses on King Rantideva, right? It expanded and opened up so that we could hear this. So as we're approaching the 10th canto, which we're getting very close to,
Very close.
we can understand how our heart needs to be situated, that we need to get a little transrational with our compassion, if we're going to begin to understand these deeper truths.
Get transrational. That's your mantra today, Mara. Get transrational. Not irrational, transrational.
But generally, we're supposed to embrace it ourselves and not tell everybody.
Yes.
Everybody. Like King Rantideva, he wasn't telling the Chanda, get transrational.
All right, you ready for some takeaways?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you
Transrational rights are human rights.
You ready for some takeaways?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you learn to see good in people who aren't like you and don't like you?
Mhm.
us
That's
try.
a big one, people. That might be the big one of today. Can you learn to love people who are not like you and don't like you?
Extend and expand your circle of compassion.
There we go. Expand.
Expand. Kaustubha.
The wise believe the entire world is a family.
Yeah.
One family.
Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Youth of today, circa 1987. One family.
There's no peace until you relinquish the limits of compassion.
That's right. That's
I
a
was
nice
into
way to
all
say
this stuff as a teenager.
You are wonderful, Raghunath. You are.
I didn't mean
You are
it like
glorious.
that. I feel like I've always been a devotee.
Soften the heart. Compassion is also love of God.
That's right.
Soften the heart, compassion. Say that again.
Compassion is also love of God.
Same heart, just pointed in different ways.
Yep. Serve your guests like Rantideva.
There you go.
Serve your guests like Rantideva.
Make your motto, God has a greater plan for me.
Okay.
God's got a greater plan. I'm just going to deal. I'm going to deal with it.
Deepen your faith and cultivate a soft heart like Rantideva and Vasudhaiva Dutt.
Okay.
How about make a bridge and get over it?
I don't
know.
I think you're going the other direction, Raghunath, with that one.
Seems not compassionate.
And he responded to the Chandala, I understand that you're thirsty, but make a bridge and get over it.
Just deal with it. Feed your own dogs. How about that? Is that one? No, it's like I'm not going to get what I want, so I'm just going to I'm going to make a bridge and get over it. Not you make a bridge.
Okay.
That beggar may be a deva in disguise.
Could be.
Could be.
There's no suffering when you're connected with God.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
get transrational.
get transrational.
That's
Thanks,
our message
everybody.
for today.
Woo-hoo. Mara from the Mahabharata. Who else sort of was getting tested at the end of the Mahabharata?
It's in the Mahabharata.
Mahabharata.
But I was thinking Maharaj. Oh,
Getting tested at the end of the Mahabharata. Quick, before someone else.
Yudhisthira.
Yudhisthira. Boom. The dog.
Now,
what
of course,
about also,
there's Shivi.
yeah, I was thinking Maharaj Shivi.
Mara Shibi. That's a great one.
I think Shivi takes it to another level.
He's cutting off his own flesh.
Cutting off his own flesh. That's faith right there, boy.
Yeah, I think within Hindu culture, What do you think, Bart? Thumbs up. Have you heard of Rantideva? I think he's popular. No?
I think it's more his, but I think his influence is there, but people don't know him by name so much.
All right.